back with another one. So all I meant to say is, with these last in this series is that, I've seen different iterations of like generations, and I've had significant experiences and been on a first name basis with people of at least 7 generations now. It would say the lost generation, the greatest generation, Generation X, millennial, Generation X. Wait, no, is that 8? Wait, the lost generation, the greatest generation, the baby boomer, Generation X, millennial, Generation Y, Generation Z, and Generation A Alpha. That's 8 generations of people that I've lived with and I've been cared cared for, or or been peers with. 8 generations, and so now they now I've noticed that now there's a motion towards like self-centeredness and like taciturn, that's like not using very many words, and that might be partly because we're so digital now that we're actually, you think about what the way you do things is the way you think. So because we're interfacing like with like digital like means, a lot of things are like shorthand and abbreviated and truncated, and so that would make things a little bit like shorter, and so speech is like that too, and so like economy of words is promoted. Now I actually experienced that younger because I had very daunting experiences as a young person, very potentially violent experiences as a young person, and so I actually I didn't feel comfortable expressing myself verbally when I was an adult. I was capable of it. That's been one of my strong suits. Most of my life had been reading and speaking, but I didn't feel comfortable in opening my mouth as a young man, because I just knew how people talk about each other behind their back, and how things can go bad really quickly about like talking. So for a lot of times, I hardly said for about the first until I was about 30 years old. I didn't say too much of anything. If you were to look into anyone who worked with me throughout my 20s, they would say that I didn't have too much of anything to say. I wasn't not talking. I would talk when it was I would talk as to not talk. I would say exactly what is necessary to not have to talk and to get along with people. That was my experience for like 10 years. And some people that I worked with, I was having like, a lot of people were really thinking like we're having, I got like a lot of esteem at a lot of these different jobs where they would like, I think I had a strong name in these jobs. They were humble jobs, but they were forward facing public jobs. So it was actually contact with the community and influential, like as a clerk. And then also I was doing like delivery, like in a lot of different areas, and I didn't talk any more than it would that was absolutely necessary to be polite and get things done. That's the all the more that I talked in those roles, and I probably had more esteem like that. But some of a couple different times, different coworkers said that they can't imagine how some, they said they couldn't live like that. Like they couldn't imagine how someone would live like that. Get up, go to work, make money, don't say anything more than you have to, come home, go to sleep, do it again, like that. Nothing more, nothing less than that for a long time had been my life. But then I came across a man in one of those jobs. When I was when I was about 30, I think I was about 29 years old when I met this man, and he was a 1 year younger than me. But so we were both at our very late 20s. But he came into that job as like a pizza store, and within 1 month, they promoted him to a store manager, and they would have made him a general manager if he. But there was a requirement that you needed more experience, like just in terms of time, linear time. It's kind of like if you can imagine someone that's like they're 29 years old and they're like, damn man, we need to make this man the president, but he's not old enough yet, man. That's the way they were looking at him. And then like some of the other people around there, they're saying like some of the managers, they're like, nah, man, he's got to be like an undercover or something, man, because you can't learn this job that fast. Like there, because it was just like a pizza store, but there's like a lot of little things to do with that it takes you a while to figure that out. And like I was getting some props because like some of the big dogs, they were teaching me like when I first came in there, they're like, yeah man, I don't need none of this lazy stuff about Sunday driving, about like, yeah, let's take the long one and take our time to drop it off. You need to be looking for the doubles, man. You need to be looking to get in and out with as many as you can. And yeah, I know you come in here, man, and sometimes you got to use the bathroom after you took a order, but you need to make sure you clock out on the computer first because it's money first before everything. That's what they're teaching me. But then after I bite it like that, after a while they're like, yeah man, yeah, how did he say it? He was like yeah, you know the game, man. So he's like, because I was at that time I was about to step down because I wanted to get into like going back to school and doing music. And he's like, yeah man, you ever want to come back, man? You know the game, man. You know how the game is played by now. So I knew a lot of the tricks of that job, but I wasn't interested in management at that time because I didn't want the BS that comes with like trying to lead people that don't respect you and stuff like that as an already marginalized person. But I yet knew a lot of the tricks of that job. Like there would be certain things that you had to wash, like dishes. Like you had like these pans that would make like certain pizzas, but the crust would get caked on that pan. And then at the end of the night, so you're a driver at the graveyard, like you get done anywhere from 12, 1, 2, 3 a.m. is when the shift ends, but then you got to clean the store for another hour. And you can choose one or two bullets, one or two poisons. You can clean the line, the where the pizza's made. You can break that thing down and clean that, or you can do the dishes. But you got to know what your strong suits are. So I was actually stronger with the dishes. There were males and female workers that were way colder at breaking down that line than me, and they could run circles around that line. But I could handle the dishes pretty cold. And I was there was something about those dishes that you actually couldn't clean those properly without some of my tricks. Like that stuff would get caked on there, and you were not gonna figure out how to get that thing cleaned in such a way as that it would pass an inspection from the morning crew or an inspector without some of my tricks. And some of those tricks I had picked them up because I watched this show as a young person with Nicolas Cage where he was interested in like blowing things up. I can't remember what that movie is called. It's something about bombs, like with Nicolas Cage. And he was like, yeah, man, when I was a little kid, I had got a chemistry set and that's all I cared about. And now I blow shit up. I was like, damn, he did that with a chemistry set. So I got my mom to buy me a chemistry set. And a lot of that stuff, they actually had some real chemicals in there. You probably shouldn't have had little kids around that type of stuff. But the only thing I learned about that was like some of the properties of water and how water breaks stuff down. So I was able to like I was able to get over on some dishes by being exposed to that chemistry set that I wouldn't have otherwise been. I would have been stuck trying to figure out some hard stuff with time pressing me as an ordinary civilian. But I had watched that movie with Nicolas Cage, so I was no longer a civilian by the time I got to working at a pizza store. But I had that coworker, and he was keen to know all my tricks. He was like, "Oh, you do what? You do?" He was trying to learn that stuff. So he approached that job as though he had a sick family member, and their welfare depended on his learning that role. That's how he approached it. But one thing that he taught me is that he said it's important to communicate, man. He's like, because I think he might have actually been jealous because, I was having like clout by not talking a lot, but he was like, and he was a little bit social like that. But he was saying that, but you gotta communicate. We gotta communicate. It's like when you're doing like teamwork, like something very stressful, stuff like that. Communication is very important. And that experience with him, it started a trajectory to where now I'm more verbal. I'm social, like in environments with people that don't come from the same background as me. Um, Humble people, beautiful people, regular people, powerful people, dangerous people. I'm comfortable with a lot of people if I'm coming correct with respect, and I'm learning to express myself. And I actually am a little bit verbal and extroverted, as had been who I was as a young child. But then I had painful experiences that more so made me lean towards going within, but that was only to come back without. So sometimes life will put you in one motion in order to bring you back to another motion. And actually, the Order Osho, he's one of the most verbally dexterous people that I've ever met or that I've ever encountered online, the Order Osho. But he actually pointed out that it's important to have range to be able to be verbal and also silent. So he actually went from having discourses, having people the world over fawn and flock to follow him, doctors, engineers, whatnot, bow down, sit at his feet and listen to him dialogue for hours on end. And then he went through a silent phase when he had like a commune in the United States, and he didn't say anything for like 1, 2, 3, or 4 years. He stopped talking. But before that, he had said that it's important to have range to be both verbal and silent. So he actually practiced each of those to the fullest. But I became more verbal after I met that man that encouraged to communication. And I just want to say that there's some value in being verbal, even as though people are getting beyond verbalism now, and some of it is actually fleshing out ideas. So I can come across ideas and fathom ideas by verbalizing is what I wanted to say with this one.